So let me talk about four sort of big takeaways from the words of participants this evening. So one is this notion that intersectionality matters, right? So it was the intersection of racism and sexism is what made Black women student affairs educators especially vulnerable to oppression, that they were navigating both of these systems simultaneously, and which contributed, again, to making Black women educators invisible, as well as also hyper-visible at times. Point number two then, sort of takeaway, is the limits of racial battle fatigue. So what's interesting here is that often we were asking participants to center themselves in this interview. So to talk about their own lives, their own experiences with racial battle fatigue. And many of them talked about their partners, even in this interview, how they were scared for their husbands, how they were scared for the Black men in their lives. So it shows that even in an interview process that was dedicated to Black women sharing their experiences, they still spoke of Black men in their lives, which to me illustrates some of the limits of just the lens of racial battle fatigue, that it doesn't really capture the complexities of the sexism that these Black women are also navigating. So again, it goes back to this notion of the intersectionality or the misogynoir that I talked about earlier is really important. These systems are happening at the same time. Caring and student affairs is sort of the third big takeaway. So these participants worked in a helping profession. Many of you are also educators who are here tonight, right? And so those of us who work in helping professions, the belief is that we're supposed to center the needs of the students we work with, right? Of everybody else and not ever ourselves. And so because of these expectations of what a helping profession is, it exacerbated this feeling of racial battle fatigue, that the expectations that Black women educators be superwomen were exhausting, they were unrealistic, and they didn't allow participants to rest, to be vulnerable, or to say no at times. And so again, that's another big takeaway here. And the number four for me is that self-care is not synonymous with healing. As I talked about in the last quote from Zuri, where she was talking again about like the community care, right? So self-care is more temporary. There are these temporary fixes, but healing is a much more sustainable process and aided in lessening participants' trauma that they were experiencing. And this had to be in the community of other Black women with which to process their experiences.